Good evening and welcome to today's budget hearing for the proposed fiscal year 24-25 city budget. Before we begin, I would like to introduce our interpreter for this evening, Carmen Cota. Carmen.
Thank you. My name is Carmen Cota. I will be providing an interpretation for the Spanish-speaking audience. Will you give me a minute to introduce myself to them? Buenas tardes, soy Carmen Cota. Yo les voy a servir de intérprete esta noche. Si van a hablar, por favor, pausen después de cada cita para darme la oportunidad de interpretar. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Now I'd like to turn it over to our council members to make brief remarks. I'll start in council district order, District 1.
Thank you so much, Jeff. It is an honor to be here at the beginning of budget season. I want to thank our city manager, Jeff Barton, as well as our budget and research director, Amber Williamson, for being such great advisors and stewards with our money, as well as the entire budget and research department staff. We very much appreciated all the hard work. I know all of the departments did a lot of work on their budgets this year, so we're grateful for that. And now I look forward to hearing our citizens' comments on that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hodge Washington.
Thank you. Again, I join in Councilman O'Brien's comment. Thank you to the budget and research staff for all of the hard work they've done in preparing the budget that we're about to hear about. And I also want to say a special thank you to the community members for taking the time out and attending tonight's meeting to make sure that we are hearing from you and making sure the budget works for the entirety of the city of Phoenix. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Pastor.
Good evening. Are these just comments, or what am I doing?
Yes, just opening comments.
Okay. Thank you for everybody that's here. Really appreciate it. I think it's important that we hear what the community needs are and wants, and then we'll make the tough decision of what we need to do. So thank you for being here, and staff.
Thank you. Before we begin discussion on the trial budget this evening, we'll play a short video about the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. The master plan will define the community's vision and guide the department's direction for the next 10 years and beyond. And the Parks and Recreation Department strongly encourages resident feedback. Video, please.
Welcome to the City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Phoenix Parks and Recreation is dedicated to making Phoenix a better place to live, visit, and play. In this video, we will be answering 3 basic questions. 1. What is a master plan? 2. What is the focus of Phoenix Parks and Recreation's master plan? And 3. How can you get involved? First, what is a master plan? A master plan develops a clear purpose for our department and the vision for recreation facilities, programs, and services for the next decade. A master plan provides an opportunity to receive quality feedback and have meaningful engagement from the community. The Phoenix Parks and Recreation Master Plan will start in fall of 2023 and last approximately 18 months. Second, what is the focus of this master plan? As part of our master plan, Phoenix Parks and Recreation will be evaluating and taking inventory of all existing parks, recreation programming, and facilities, with an emphasis on water conservation and crime prevention. We will also assess community demographics and recreation trends to ensure equitable access to programs and services, and will evaluate how the department prioritizes funding. Lastly, how can you get involved? A large part of the master plan depends on you and your feedback. Phoenix Parks and Recreation will host community workshops, send out surveys, attend community events, survey neighborhoods and parks facilities, and work with community groups to receive feedback about our parks and recreation amenities and services. It's crucial to have public feedback throughout the entire process because, after all, our department serves thousands of Phoenicians every day. Thank you for being part of this journey as we pave the way for the next decade of parks and recreation services, creating spaces for all.
Okay, the feedback that we received today is extremely important as we finalize the proposed budget to present to City Council, so your input may be considered before the budget is approved. As presented to the City Council on February 27th and March 9th, the fiscal year 24-25 proposed general fund budget includes a one-time surplus of $80 million. Unfortunately, due to the state's actions to eliminate residential rental tax effective January 2025 and to reduce the individual income tax rate to the current flat tax, deficits are projected in fiscal years 25-26 and 26-27. Because the city is required to adopt a balanced budget, it is recommended to set aside in reserve the $80 million one-time surplus so it may be available to help balance the fiscal year 25-26 budget. Your feedback is very important, so your priorities can be heard and considered for the upcoming fiscal years to ensure the budget reflects your input. The proposed budget will be presented to City Council on May 7th and voted on May 21st. If you wish to speak at today's hearing on the proposed budget, please fill out a comment card. For those of you who do not wish to speak today, you can fill out a comment card and check the box No to Speak. Another way to participate is through the Fund Phoenix interactive budget tool. This tool lets you provide direct feedback on the proposed budget and is available at Phoenix.gov/budget. Today we have a 5-minute video to show. The video is on the proposed trial budget and includes the general obligation or GO bond program approved by voters on the November 7th, 2023 ballot. We'll now play the proposed trial budget video. Immediately following the video, we'll move to speaker comments on the 24-25 proposed trial budget. The video is about 5 minutes long.
The City of Phoenix trial budget for fiscal year 2024-2025, proposed by the Phoenix City Manager, is ready for public review and comment. A trial budget is a preliminary draft of the actual budget, estimating resources and costs to deliver services to the community for the coming fiscal year. How does Phoenix's annual budget work? The city budget is made up of 3 funds: the General Fund, Enterprise Funds, and Special Revenue Funds. The general fund is made up of general sales tax, property taxes, revenue distributed by the state from income tax, sales tax, and vehicle tax, and some fines and fees. The general fund supports many of the core services our residents, visitors, and businesses have come to expect in Phoenix, including libraries, parks, senior and youth programs, and police and fire services. Enterprise funds include city departments that only charge the people who use their services directly, like water and sewer, airline passengers at Sky Harbor, and trash and recycling customers. Finally, special revenue funds earmarked for specific purposes, from grants and voter-approved sales taxes dedicated for parks and preserves, transportation, and public safety. That's how Phoenix gets its money. Now, how do we spend it? Phoenix has a long history of responsible budgeting, ensuring resources are balanced to projected expenses each fiscal year. A top priority of the City Council is to ensure the public can engage in the budget development process every year, giving the community a voice in the future of our city. Residents have multiple opportunities to provide their input ahead of final budget decision-making scheduled for May 21st. Each year, departments work with budget and research to estimate costs to deliver existing programs and services, and staff forecast what resources will be available to pay for services. The city manager then proposes a trial budget in March that identifies how resources should best be allocated to ensure a balanced budget each fiscal year and to achieve city council and community priorities. Then we ask for your input at community budget hearings in April by using the Fund Phoenix interactive budget tool, available in English and Spanish, or by contacting the city directly to ensure the budget reflects the priorities of our residents and city council. After receiving your input, the city council will vote on the budget in May and legally adopt the budget in June. State law requires the city's budget to be balanced, and this year, the 2024-25 proposed budget includes a projected one-time general fund surplus of $80 million. However, the state legislative and executive branches recently made decisions that reduce the city's tax base. Senate Bill 1131 eliminates residential rental tax, and Senate Bill 1828 reduced individual income tax rates. The total general fund estimated impact in fiscal year 2024-25 is $54 million, and for fiscal year 25-26, $86 million from the state's actions. Due to the estimated ongoing revenue losses, city staff is projecting future deficits in fiscal years 2025-26 and 2026-27. And it is for this reason the city manager is proposing to set aside and reserve the $80 million one-time surplus to ensure future budgets can remain balanced and to preserve existing programs and services such as police and fire, parks, libraries, neighborhood and human services, and other essential community programs that can continue to be delivered to the community. We encourage you to provide your input in whatever way works best for you. You can use Fund Phoenix, an interactive budget tool in English and Spanish that lets you provide direct feedback on the proposed fiscal year 2024-25 general fund trial budget, or by email at budget.research@phoenix.gov. You can comment to the city's social media pages at City of Phoenix AZ on Facebook or on X using hashtag PHXBudget, or call us at 602-262-4800. The city manager will present his proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 to Phoenix City Council on May 7th, 2024. The council's budget decision will take place on May 21st, 2024. All resident feedback will be shared with City Council so they may consider it before making final budget decisions. As a reminder, in November 2023, voters approved a $500 million general obligation bond program made up of 47 projects citywide. Projects include new and improved fire stations, parks, libraries, community and recreation centers, regional pools and splash pads, street and storm drain infrastructure improvements, projects for art facilities, and resources for affordable housing, renewable energy, and water efficiency projects. GeoBond projects are paid for with secondary property taxes, and projects are starting this summer. More information can be found online at Phoenix.gov/bond. Thank you for engaging in the budget process and helping build the Phoenix of tomorrow.
We will now start calling the names of the speakers. If you are in person this evening, please approach the microphone when your name is called. Before we begin, a reminder to the audience that we have interpretation available for Spanish language attendees provided by Carmen Cota for today's hearing. Chloe?
We're going to start with virtual speakers. Our first speaker will be Teresa Hill.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Out of the $2 billion budget, the homeless need our help. They want a better life. They don't want to live on the street. There are more than 2,000 homeless seniors who have been put on the street because they can't afford an apartment. And I'm glad we're seeing some progress as Haven 2 opens up soon, but it's not enough. According to the budget revenue loss, $18.4 million is lost from rental taxes. $43.4 million are lost from income taxes. That's a total of $61.8 million shortage. The shortage, could be from the $80 million surplus. That would leave still $18.2 million to go towards next year's shortages. I recommend us invest now in more grant writers to find resources, which there are many others. Spend the money now to reestablish the homeless in housing, help the legal aid, help the people from being evicted. We've got mental health, substance struggles. And one last thing, I see we're gonna use city money, it says in neighborhood services, that $500,000 to implement a pilot private property cleanup using tax dollars. We're in a crisis. We're not in 2020 when this was proposed. We've got thousands of people in this country that are homeless. The city of Phoenix needs to stand up. Hundreds will die in this city. Is that more important than cleaning up private property? This is so wrong. I ask of one thing. Would you spend your money in this way for a life?
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Jenny Ann Sumner.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank Director Spencer for following up on last year's request for the Graffiti Busters permission slip option to be filled out and filed online. I support NSD's Bite Buster Reduction Program request as NSD coordinating with Phoenix Cares has had a very positive impact in our neighborhood. Pam Jones and Lisa Huggins Hubbard are terrific. I'd like to also thank Director Aguilar for her and the Parks Board multiple efforts and support to keep our neighborhood parks safe. I support adding funding to allow park ranger and vehicle coverage 24/7. I support a volunteer coordinator program to promote a parks volunteer program. I support the CIP in the Old Crosscut Canal for the aged out and broken irrigation system and look for ways to replace some of the grass with alternative landscaping. I support adding an assistant to the city manager position to oversee homeless solutions and programs. I've experienced the benefit of City Manager Barton, the Office of Homeless Solutions, NSD, PD, Parks, and Balt School District, coordinating their efforts in both the Pierce and the Old Crosscut Canal and Arcadia Crossing as well. I support the Homeless Outreach Services help in obtaining identification, securing forms, transportation, and benefit assistance for individuals. I support adding a planner 3 position to the Office of Customer Advocacy to support the vacant storefront program and expand the adaptive reuse program. I support PD's request for civilian investigators and the hiring of additional officers. I also support adding a real-time operations center in the Mountain View precinct. I don't support street sweeping. I don't find the value in dusty air and small walks flying behind the street sweeper. As a member of the 44th Community Alliance Steering Committee, we respectfully request the budget for Pierce Park to include additional trees and programming, such as fitness classes and activities. We regret the pool not opening at all this summer. We support finding funding to remodel the bathrooms and the park. And in the Old Crosscut Canal Park, we support consideration be given to design changes, additional trees, park property lines identified from McDowell to Thomas Roads, and the replacement of the trash cans with locking tops, or at least the replacement of the faded and cracked lids. We understand the bus stops on 44th Street from Thomas to Washington, 44th to 48th Streets are on the list to be converted to septet benches. We support additional funding in this budget to complete the list. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Annie Elden.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, my name is Annie Elden. I am a resident in District 4 at the area code 85006, and I am speaking on behalf of Phoenix spokespeople. I'm the president, and we are asking for a few of the following funding options. First of all, please ensure that there are funds to continue to build protected bike lanes on 3rd Street from Lincoln to Roosevelt. South Phoenix is still quite segregated from the rest of Phoenix, and this bike lane is one way to begin to build a connection. It also furthers the goals of building a north-south bikeway. Next, please continue to fund Complete Streets by creating a designated Complete Streets position in the Streets Transportation Department. This way, they would be able to focus on specific ways to make streets complete. The active transportation team already has their hands full with other projects, so a designated person could ensure that specific Complete Streets projects will be completed. Thirdly, please continue to fund and implement project suggestions from the Phoenix CAN program. This is a fabulous program that really involves the community in finding out what they need. Thank you for starting this, and please continue to support it. In general, we would like to have a designated fund for completing quick build projects. These can be for things as simple as painting in bike lanes on an extra wide street or adding a crosswalk sign. Many of these stem from the Phoenix CAN program suggestions, so that could be a big benefit. We realize that the city budget is limited and precious, and there are many things that need to be funded. Supporting these requests by Phoenix spokespeople would create a safer, more enjoyable place for all of our residents. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be John Walker.
Good evening. This is John Walker. Thank you all for allowing me to speak today. I'm here also on behalf of the Phoenix spokespeople. I'm a founding board member. First off, I'd like to thank the city of Phoenix for all the funding that has occurred and construction of separated bike lanes, specifically 3rd Street, south of Steel Indian School Park. It's a route that I use every day on my cargo bike, and I bring my kids along to drop them off to school, and I bike commute every day. So it's been really wonderful to have that option. It feels a lot safer. And I'm also seeing a lot of other cyclists, families, e-scooters, e-bikes using that. So thank you for that. What we're asking for, sort of what Annie said, is we're asking for continued funding to complete more separated bike lanes. As Annie mentioned, south of Roosevelt on 3rd Street, that is something that I think the city really needs to continue working on to connect South Phoenix and improve alternate modes of transportation in that area. Also, generally asking the city to continue building physically separated bike lanes. It increases ridership. We're also asking for improved connectivity among the bike lanes, and also removing flare lanes. So sometimes if you approach some intersections that haven't been remodeled with bike lanes recently, the bike lane will disappear about 50 or 100 feet before the intersection. And we'd like that to be removed. That doesn't really promote a safe separation. Another thing that I'm asking for is that the e-scooters and e-bike regulation that prohibits individuals under 18 be eliminated, because e-bikes and e-scooters are such a wonderful way for young folks to get around. On 3rd Street, personally, I notice a lot of young people riding to ASA, the high school there. And it just really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to allow a 16-year-old to drive a 2-ton SUV and not allow them to ride an e-scooter. I applaud the emphasis, the continued adoption of Vision Zero and making our streets safer. So thank you all for your time, and I appreciate the ongoing work.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Patrick McDaniel.
Good evening, members of council, city manager Barton. My name is Patrick McDaniel. I'm speaking to you tonight as the advocacy director for Phoenix Community Alliance. To begin with, first of all, our over 300 plus members definitely appreciate the work and time and effort that was put into preparing a budget that will provide services for the fiscal year 24, and also work with a projected budget deficit for 2025. We know that City of Phoenix staff is working with a situation that is not of their own creation through the state legislature, so we have definitely applaud the efforts to continue providing such a balanced budget. We do ask that funding is maintained for organizations, for staff positions that seek to address the problem of those individuals experiencing homelessness. We've seen a drastic increase, we've seen a drastic improvement in the past year due to increased staffing in Office of Homeless Solutions. We'd also like to ask that funding is maintained while we're such a young city, we definitely need to preserve our historic assets that we have, so that funding is maintained for historic preservation and threatened building funds as well. And also, to echo the sentiment of some of the previous speakers, that funding is maintained for active transportation, programming, and resources. As I said earlier, I know that the goal is to maintain services for the coming year, but should there be additional monies found, if it would be possible to increase staffing within the City of Phoenix Housing Department to work on affordable housing RFPs and other issues like that. A bureaucratic obstacle should not be the reason why a person does not have obtainable housing. So with all that said, thank you all very much for your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now go to our in-person speakers. We'll start with Steve Gilman.
Thank you. Council, City Manager, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Stephen Gilman, and I'm up here today wearing several hats. I'm wearing the hat of a father, the hat of a son, of a brother, and of the IFF 10th District Vice President. I represent over 53,000 firefighters in the states of Hawaii, California, Arizona, New Mexico. But I am here today mostly to wear the hat of a concerned citizen. I'm incredibly concerned that we have no plans or no budget to hire any additional firefighters. And I want to start with this. That was 15 seconds. Imagine 9 minutes. 9 minutes of you holding your choking child. 9 minutes of you trying to provide care for your loved one who's had a heart attack or assist your neighbor who's pulled his child out of a pool. 9 minutes is your response time right now. It is not going to get better. These firefighters behind me are running more calls than ever before. And we've seen a great video of a plan for a master park community, yet we have no plan to address this firefighter shortage. It's not the city manager's issue. It's not this current council issue. It's a decades-long problem in which the can has been kicked down the curb again and again. But we've elected you to make a decision. That decision should be to provide basic essential services. It is great to hear the citizens participate and talk about bike lanes. But I guarantee you the people in the bike lane that get hit by a car want a timely response. The people talking about the parks, when they call 911, they want somebody to show up in a quick and fast, efficient manner. And it's time we start laying out a plan to address the staffing shortage that has been allowed to grow over decades while this city has added hundreds of thousands of residents. So my only request to you is please consider hiring more firefighters sooner than later. This cannot continue. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Yes, it's a budget meeting. It's a community meeting, right? My question is, how would you solve that?
I would solve that by prioritizing the essential services. As a citizen myself, even though you may look at me biased as a firefighter, the essential services are pretty simple. I want clean water, I want garbage and sewage to be taken away from my home, and I want public safety. If my house is getting robbed, I want the police to respond quickly. If there's an emergency, medical or fire, I want a quick response. This is supposed to be a premier city. We're the 5th largest city in America, and yet we're twice the national average on response time. So for me, I would prioritize those 3 things first and then worry about everything else, in my opinion as a citizen. That's where I want my tax dollars going.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have Chris Murphy.
Good evening, council members, City Manager Barton, and members of city staff, and the other citizens of Phoenix. My name is Chris Murphy. I'm a Phoenix native and current Phoenix resident. I've spent the last 31 years serving our community as a proud member of the Phoenix Fire Department and a proud member of United Phoenix Firefighters Local 493. Early in my career, we were a fully staffed, well-funded department that was respected as a national leader on the forefront of innovation with EMS and ambulance service. More importantly, the citizens had a safety net that they could rely on. When I was preparing to test for the fire department, I had a personal experience where my newborn niece had choked on some medicine that she was given. My family called 911 and the fire department arrived in less than 3 minutes. As a young person trained in CPR, I tried to clear her airway, but couldn't. When the fire department showed up, they were able to get her breathing again. That was a terrifying experience, waiting for help to arrive when someone you love isn't breathing. Thinking back on that experience today, I fear the outcome wouldn't be the same. Over the last 15 years, we have added hundreds of thousands of new residents to the city. But the safety net for our residents, the fire department, has been stretched thinner and thinner and been asked to do more with less. We haven't kept pace with the growth. In fact, we've seen a 50% spike in calls for service, both fire and medical, yet we have only added 1 station and 2 trucks to our system. Our response times to help someone you care about who is sick or to rescue someone from a burning building has steadily declined from the national standard of 5 minutes to an alarming 9 minutes on average. This is unacceptable and puts lives at risk. For firefighters, it's our family helping yours. That's why we're here. Our ask is simple. We need more firefighters, more fire trucks, and more fire stations in order to protect you and your family. Please support us and join us in asking our council members to invest the resources necessary to support our mission of lowering response time. I would encourage, in closing, everyone who lives, works, or travels through Phoenix to visit phxfirecrisis.com for more information as to how this directly impacts you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Jason Newman.
Good evening. My name is Jason Newman. I was born and raised in Phoenix and have been a member of the Local 493 for 17 years. In the last 15 years, as Chris said, our population has increased by hundreds of thousands. With this growth, our department has seen an exponential increase in demand for services. This growth has not been mirrored within our fire department. As Chris also mentioned, we've only seen the addition of 1 fire station and 2 fire trucks within the same time period. This lack of growth comes at a great cost to both the citizens of Phoenix and our membership. When a citizen calls 911 in the city of Phoenix, the average response time is now over 9 minutes. The national standard for response is 5. In many emergencies, not just minutes, but seconds matter. Whether a citizen is having a medical issue, needs to be cut out of a vehicle after a car accident, or rescued from a structure fire, seconds and minutes matter. Our neighbors, family, and friends can expect to wait over 4 minutes longer than what is accepted across the nation for help to arrive. From our membership side, this takes a large toll physically, mentally, and emotionally. You all have heard time and time again that we're tired, but I don't know that you truly grasp what we mean. When creating budgets, departments are seen as line items and operating expenditures. The reality is we are husbands, wives, friends, neighbors, sons, and daughters. When we say that we are tired, we mean that call volumes well above the national standard that should trigger additional personnel, apparatus, and stations have dramatically increased the rate of physical injury, burnout, compassion fatigue, and decline in the overall mental health and well-being of our membership. I work with some of the greatest and most passionate men and women that our community has to offer, but the conditions that we are faced with are pushing many of them to, and unfortunately, past their breaking point. Over the last 5 years, we have had a significant number of members walk away from a career that was once their life's dream due to the call volume and constant exposure to trauma, which has been a detriment to their mental health and the well-being of their families. While this may not seem uncommon when compared to the attrition of other city departments, it equates to an exodus in a department where traditionally 99% of the employees work well past the 20-year mark. As it stands, there's no money allocated for new firefighters or apparatus in next year's budgets. Both items would contribute significantly to increasing both the ability of our department to quickly and effectively meet the needs of citizens and help ease the strain that our membership is currently facing. I hope that you will consider adding funding for both items to next year's budget. The safety of your constituents and the health of your public servants is depending on it. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker we have signed up is Lisa Glow.
Hey. Hi, I'm Lisa Glow with Cass. Good evening, distinguished councilwomen, City Manager Barton, and city staff. Thank you for your partnership with Cass over the last 40 years. We couldn't have gotten this far without your partnership. Also, thank you for your leadership in making a difference for homelessness in the streets of Phoenix. It really is starting to show, so we appreciate that. And thanks for your continued support for both our adult and family shelters. Last year, we served nearly 7,000 individuals, which was a 4% increase over the prior year, and the prior year before that, 34% increase in service numbers. These numbers will rise again when we open the Senior Haven this summer with 170 new beds. With this continuing rise in need and our expansion of services, we're asking for your support in this year's budget in 2 areas. First, we're asking for support for operating dollars for our Sunny Slope Family Shelter, which has operated for 35 years, serving mostly Phoenix residents. This apartment complex serves 120 to 150 family members daily and nightly with a full array of services, case management, and everything on site. Family homelessness is on the rise in the community. We're asking for a budget allocation of $450,000 to help us have a stable source of revenue for this family shelter. We've never asked for general fund operating support in the past, and we need your support to make sure we can stay stable and serve that number of families. Secondly, we're asking for an additional allocation for our adult shelter. We're grateful that you helped us bridge funding when we had a crisis, and we want to avoid that in the future on funding crises. We appreciate the $169,000 you added to our underlying contract, which puts us at $1.04 million. We're asking for $453,000 to get us at $1.5 million. We serve more adults than any other provider in the region. Last year, 4,700 adults, nearly over 70% from Phoenix. 79% of all we serve that are case managed are also from Phoenix. And we are not asking support for the senior haven because we have our first year of operating coverage. So those are the two things we're asking for you to consider. Thank you.
Council members, that was our last speaker. Would you like to make any closing comments before we close out this evening? Okay. With that being said, I want to thank everyone for participating and providing feedback on the 24-25 proposed budget. This concludes this evening's hearing. Thank you.